In this session, we will be talking about crafting a user-friendly test automation framework. You all speak English, right? Do you speak English? Okay. I Yes. Is there any person who doesn't speak English? So normally this session will be in English, but okay. Okay. So can I ask, what do you understand from crafting a user-friendly test automation framework? Any opinions? Well, what do you understand when I say crafting a user-friendly test automation framework? Or maybe let's break it down to smaller pieces. When I say test automation framework, what do you understand? Nothing? Okay. So let's figure it out together. So first of all, let me a little bit introduce myself. I am a tester. I'm mostly doing the test automation. I have a family in Japan. I love traveling, and I'm doing public speaking all over the world. And additionally, I'm a community builder, so I'm organizing some meetups in Tokyo. So if you are around, please come and visit. So this is the link for the conference that I'm organizing. So what we will be talking about in this session is, first of all, we will discuss what the user friendliness is. This was my first question at the beginning. And then we will discuss user friendliness, especially from the test automation perspective, because first part, user friendliness in general, then the second part will be the user friendliness from the test automation framework. So we will be discussing who are the users of test framework, what are the use cases. And finally, I will share some recommendations for building a user-friendly framework, and then we will close. So what is user-friendliness? My first question. It is basically the ease with which a person can use a system, right? How easily I can use a system. When I try to use some system, maybe go to UI, URL, or maybe open a mobile application or something else. It can be even a device, hardware, whatever I'm using. For example, I want to buy some water from the kiosk, right? How easily can I do that? Am I confused? Like, if I don't know which button I should click, or even on the UI, if I don't know which page I have to go navigate, maybe that system is not that much user friendly, or in other words, usable. User friendliness and usability, these two words can be interchangeably used, and very similar terms, and they are very important for testing. As QA engineers, as testers, not only the functionality, but also the user friendliness we have to ensure on the system that we are testing. Let me show you some examples. This is how Yahoo looked like some time ago, maybe 10, 20 years ago. What do you see on the system? Or maybe let me show you the new version as well so that you can compare. This is how it looks nowadays. This is the old version. This is the new version. What kind of differences do you see? Any guesses? More pictures, yes. Anything else? There's search bar. I mean, there's search bar here as well. Exactly. That's the key point. It is more visible, right? So We have more images, we have bigger texts. There's one more very important thing, which is the color contrast. So when you go to this page, it is mostly white page and there are some texts. And I don't really know where I should click because I have to first read one by one and then I have to find what I'm looking for. But here, it is more straightforward, right? There is the menu item here. If I want to go one of those categories, then I can find, or there are news, different news, so I can directly see what is going on there. Another example, this is Amazon, Amazon.com, how it looks like, perhaps 20 years ago's version. And then now how Amazon looks like is this one. You see the difference? Again, color contrast, right? Not only white, but also like on the blue background, there is big images, so it is very visible. Visibility and clear vision is very important. And there are different categories, so I can immediately see what I'm looking for. One question, which is your favorite? Left or right? Which one do you like the most? So you like this one? こっちが好きですか? No. You like this one? Why? Exactly. Exactly. Yes, yes, correct. So maybe in Japan, this is too samishi, right? So exactly, yes. So the interpretation in Japan and the Western world is a little bit different. It applies to the websites as well. Like for me, for a website, it should be super simple, like only a few buttons, and that's all, because I'm not confused. I can immediately see. But for a Japanese person, they want to see everything in one place, right? Because there is a different background on that. Like it is even related with the language itself as well, because kanji is a logogram, right? So you can immediately pick different meanings from different pages. So you expect to see lots of information in one place. So you don't have to bother yourself to go different places, to jump to different places. But for me, one by one, on this page, let me show one function. Then I can click and go somewhere else and then see another function. Yeah, this is a different culture. But in general, what we can see is you were right when you were saying too many buttons. So it is difficult to learn, right? Once you learn, you can easily use. But sometimes I remember when I was a child, we don't have this kind of modern remote controllers, right? For TV, I was using this, but I was always confused, like which one is volume, which one is changing channels, this right or this left, which one? I'm confused. I cannot learn because there is different reasons for difficulty to learn. For example, non-intuitive layout. Like there is no certain pattern, no certain design. So it is really very difficult to learn. And inconsistent labeling, like there is some buttons on which there is PIP text. What is PIP? I don't know. I mean, it's something like picture in picture. But normally, if I'm not aware of this terminology, then I wouldn't know what PIP is. One more question. What do you think about this UI? Actually, we already made this discussion, but for me, it is super simple. Like this is the company that I'm working for, Indeed.com. So it is used for searching jobs. So it is super straightforward, very obvious you have to do. Put the keyword, job title, like QA engineer, where in Tokyo, in Japan, and search, click. This is all. Let me show you the previous version of Indeed. This is from 20 years ago, 2004. What differences do we see? We saw lots of differences in the previous examples, right? But here, almost same. Of course, there are slight differences, like maybe the size of the text or some other labels, but more or less the same. Let me show you once again. New version, old version. So on this slide, our keyword is consistency. Like if I change my system or product too often, then the users will struggle, right? For example, think about in a new version, everything changed. So you struggle to learn the new version. Sometimes it happens in Microsoft Office products, right? They release a new product, everything changed. I have to learn from scratch. It is not a user-friendly approach. One more example. So I'm going over too many examples so that we can discuss user-friendliness from different perspectives. The previous was consistency. Now, error handling. So when you see this error, sometimes we see this kind of errors, right? How can I know what I should do? It doesn't help at all. Unknown error. Okay, so what is the solution for me? Or what did I do wrong? Why did I have this error? Unknown error has occurred. So this, and there is some ridiculous numbers here. I don't understand anything. I am the user. The system should help me. So this is again another perspective, which is the error handling. So let's wrap up until this point. What kind of perspectives is important for user friendliness or for a user experience, for a usability? We discussed about visual clarity. It should be easy to see what you are looking for. Performance, even if it is simple, if like I click one button and it is opening in 2 minutes, too long, I cannot wait, right? If it is loading, then I will give up. It is not a good experience. We are talking about user experience. Consistency, we just discussed. Error handling, we just discussed. And of course, accessibility. Nowadays, it is even more important, right? Sometimes there is even government regulations that you have to apply accessibility rules on your system. So as a tester, as a QA engineer, please not only functionality, but also think about usability, maintainability, accessibility. These are all quality aspects, non-functional aspects. Cool. So far we discussed the user friendliness or usability in general. Like what should we understand from usability? Now let's talk about from the test automation perspective. User friendliness of a test automation framework. Why is it important? Why user friendliness is important for a test automation framework? Because most of the time, do you also have the same discussions in your organizations? Like we design a test, they say the test is not the end product, so we don't have to review the code. Do you have these kind of discussions? I did in my teams. So they say that test, okay, it's not that important as the end product. Yes, it is not end product. The end users will not see the test code, but still it is a product. Okay, because, or at least it's a part of the product. It will merge into my code repository. If I have any quality issues, then it will affect my repository. And there are different users because I said test framework is a product, right? So which means it has some users. What kind of users can use the test automation framework? Like I wrote a test code. Who can use it? Any guesses? Who can use my test? Anyone in the team? Exactly, correct answer. But in what ways they can use? The tip is on the slide actually. They can try to read the test I wrote, right? They can try to make some additions. They can try to write some additional tests. Or they can just try to run the test I wrote. So the answer, the users of my test is maybe myself. After some time, I will try to read my test. So many times, did I write this code? I don't understand what I wrote previously, right? I forgot. So the key point here is readability and understandability. When I read the code, I should understand what this test is doing. Maybe myself or another QA engineer so that they can try to read the code, or again, they can try to write some extra tests. Sometimes it happens. I'm involved in a new project. I'm trying to add some more tests, so I'm trying to improve the coverage, but I cannot use this framework they developed. It is too difficult. I don't know where to start because whenever I try to write a new test, first of all, I have to create an instance, then I have to call some classes, I have to do the before tests, write my test steps, call after. It's too difficult. So how easily I can write tests into this framework? How easily I can read the test which was written previously? How easily I can run the tests? Sometimes running is not only clicking the button, right? It is, you have to do some configurations, you have to pass some parameters, depending on the environment you want to run. It is too difficult. So these are different usages of the test automation framework. There are users of tests. There are different usages of the tests. So user friendliness is very important for tests. Let's a little bit discuss in detail all of these one by one. I think I don't have too much time, but let me very quickly do. So for reading, we very briefly discussed understandability and readability is very important. So that naming, even just after you read the test case name, you should understand something. Of course, there is a balance between too long naming and too short. It should not be too short that it doesn't give any clue, and it should not be too long. Sometimes I see some test case names, it is 2 lines. I'm tired while I'm reading the test. And of course, comments and documentation in the tests and consistent coding style. One example, do you understand this test case? I'll give you 10 seconds and ask you if you understand what this test is doing. Is it readable? If it is too small, I can read. So there's a product definition here, then login, search for product, select product from results, add to cart, checkout, verify order summary, logout. So actually, when we read, we already understood what this test is doing, right? We know the scenario. So this is just an example. So of course, every scenario will not as simple as this one, but this is just an example for understandability. Whenever you read the test, you should be able to have some understanding about the scenario. Sometimes I read some tests, I don't have any tips about what this test is doing. One more tip, maybe we can add some links to our test management tools. Like you can be using Jira, TestLink, TestRail, whatever test management tool you are using. If you link to the relevant scenario, even if the test code itself is not understandable, then people can go to the relevant link and try to understand the scenario. Second usage, implementing. So we already discussed how easily I can add some new tests, right? So what affects this perspective is modularity, like small pieces, Reusability, like there is a written functionality, but can I reuse it? Because if I duplicate everywhere, duplication is the uh, one of the most important things which affect my maintainability, right? And of course, testability and standards. And there are some more things like version control. So whenever you apply some changes to tests, of course, you have to keep the versioning. Continuous refactoring, scalability, and flexibility. These are the things important for implementation. And finally, running the tests. We already discussed about how easily we can run. And there are some other things like flexibility, and they should be fast. Like whenever I start tests, if it is taking 1 hour, then too long, right? Developers will complain. Whenever I want to do a bug fix, I have to wait for the tests for 1 hour. Please reduce this time. And there are different things, but one of the most important one for running tests is reliability. What should we understand from reliability? Like, can I rely on the test? Can I trust my test? A test is passing, but normally is it really a pass? Like, if there is a bug, there is an issue, there is a defect, and if my test case is still passing, then it is not good, right? I cannot trust my test case. On the other hand, if there is no bug, the feature is correct, but my test case is failing, then again, it is a reliability issue, right? So for reliability issues, the reason is test smells. While we are coding, we can have code smells, right? Similarly, we can have test smells. Just search for it, please. Test smell. You will find hundreds of different types of test smells. You can have any of this in your framework. Please be aware. And let me highlight once again. What did we say? If there is any issue in the feature, if no defect, but my test case is failing, what does it mean? It means it is a failure, but not a real bug. It's a false alarm. On the other hand, if there is an issue, there is a bug, there is a defect, but my test case is not notifying me about the defect. So it means it's a silent horror case. There is a problem, but my test case is not capable of finding this. These two cases are very critical cases we have to fix. And finally, some recommendations to improve the understandability. What can we do? We can apply some formatting like styling, naming conventions. We can use some tools, static code analysis tools like linters, beautifiers. And of course, we can follow some patterns like behavior-driven development or page object model. And for maintainability, for implementing or maintaining test cases, we discussed about reusability, right? Please try to avoid duplication. Like if you have the very same implementation two different places, whenever they want to change this implementation, what do you have to do? You have to first fix this and then fix this, right? You have to apply the fix multiple places. But what if you have in one point, then you can just call the original code, then it will reduce the maintainability. So I guess I have to wrap up very soon, but let me very quickly show you an example. So this is an example of an implementation of a scenario. So these are four profiles, four different persons. They are trying to implement the same scenario and they are using the same tool. In this case, it is Cypress. But you see, all of them implement in different ways, four different implementation methods. And what happens if they follow different patterns? Maybe some of them will have some anti-patterns, like, right? For example, dummy weight. I don't need this dummy weight. anti-pattern. So instead, what can I do? Do not try to implement from scratch, but just call the reusable function. Everyone can reuse it, reusability. And we discussed about fast running. So if they are waiting too long, it is not good. And summary, let's wrap up. Test automation is not end product. End users will not see my test code, but it is a product. So please do care about user friendliness. And what kind of users or use cases can I have on my test automation framework? Reading, writing, or maintaining, or running the test cases, right? So these are the aspects for a test automation. And how we can improve? We can apply some different linting, formatting to improve the understandability. We can try to avoid duplication. So instead, use reusable functions. Call from different places, only one original source. And execution efficiency, not too long. If you have any dummy weights or if you are not using parallelization yet, please try to run in parallel so that it will be more efficiently running. Any questions if we have time? Questions? Yes, please.
So thank you for your presentation. It's very interesting for me. And my most important topic is consistency on the user experience or some designing. So I have one question, fundamental question. So how do you define the test smells? You have one page slide.
Yes.
Like too busy.
Yeah.
Is that the list of the names of test smells?
List of the names, yes.
Can you give an example for?
Yes, sure. Flaky test is one of the most known ones. For example, flaky test is one time passing, one time failing. So test smell itself is another talk that I'm giving. So it itself is a long topic. So I didn't want to explain all of them, but there might be test smells related to scope, like eager test. If you are trying to cover too much, then it's a test smell. Because it shouldn't, the coverage should be in the proper level. Or related to execution. There are too many types of test smells.
Do you have any criterion or tools to detect these test smells?
There is no tool to detect.
So right, we should check the line.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
So do you have any prioritization among these test smells?
Yeah, I would say flaky tests because again, it's related to reliability as well. Because once you run, it passes. Then in the next run, it fails.
Okay, I see.
Pass, fail, it's flaky.
It's very difficult to.
Very difficult to find. Very difficult to find the root cause.
Yeah.
So yes, it is one of the most important ones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
じゃあ私からは以上です。
他に聞きたい方いらっしゃいますでしょうか。オンラインの方いますか。どうですか。大丈夫そうかな。So there's no question from online either. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Once more, please. 拍手をお願いします。Thank you very much.